Pausing the video before it even starts for a quick emergency announcement. If you want one of these, a tiny Pretender Shell, not Starscream, a tiny little Dirge, a tiny little man. If you want one and you don't have a 3D printer, I'm going to be selling 5 of them, only 5 on my Etsy. The URL is right here, link in the description. And because I'm only selling 5, each one comes with a fun little surprise. A little 3D prints, some 3D prints I made a while ago, little tiny model kits, you can put them together. It's a fun little surprise. So if you want that and you want the little guy, want this little guy right here, you know, have a 3D printer, one way to get it, right here. Okay, so here we are with Dirge for a little articulation test, or a little articulation showcase. So all his knees and elbows are on full 360 rotations. They're held together with magnets. So honestly, just so he doesn't break. So they snap on, real fun. He has magnets in his feet, so he can stick to anything that's magnetic. Which I don't have. Like this bread clip. You can stick to this bread clip. Magnet feet I thought it'd be fun, but I'll talk more about them in the vlog section. So his legs have a full 90 up and a full 90 back. They could probably go further, but I think you start bumping into the sculpt. His arms are on ball joints and then go up all the way, and out all the way. With the armor on, his shoulder pads limited the rotation a lot, but you can take his armor off. So to do that, you just pop off his helmet, and when you print, if you print your own, be careful when you print the helmet that there's this crease in the back of the helmet that has the helmet flex just a little bit to go on over his head. I'm not sure how that's gonna go with resin printers, but I have more to talk about the printing him in resin as we go. So to take the armor off, you kind of pull it out, and because he's more narrow, the farther you go out on the shoulders, you can just pull it up and pop it off. It's kind of this twisting motion to get it off, and then the shoulder pads will probably fall off because there's nothing really, the armor itself is holding the shoulder pads on. And so here's another reason why I don't really think this kit's going to be best for resin. It's because this is flexible TPU, and it's the only way at this scale really to have his shoulder pads move. I could put a hinge here, but at this scale the hinge would just be huge. So you need to print this in TPU or some sort of flexible thing. You can probably cheat and DIY it a little bit if you only have resin, but his chest armor goes on without the shoulder pads just fine because there's a little magnet that holds them pinned together in the back. Now the TPU does keep it a little bit snugger on him because that's what it was designed for, but you don't need the shoulder pads to complete the look. Just like that. So like I said, the armor held together with magnets, and this is where you can start to use that arm articulation all the way up. Full rotation forward, 360, pop my own ball joint, all the way around, completely free ball joint. I'm going to be selling some of these. I think I'm going to start with 5 of them. But something to know about these is they're all going to be a little bit different. All their tolerances are going to be a little bit different because these are, you know, essentially indie made action figures. They're 3D printed. The tolerances aren't going to be the same every single time around. Just the nature of the beast. So I have the design tuned in for my printer. The ones I'm selling should all fit together fine. I've kind of tested them all. You'll have to, you know, just follow the instructions in the first part of the video to put them together. All the gluing will have to be done on your end because just me getting these out in a timely manner, I just can't build all the kits. So they're all partially assembled. They're all partially assembled, but you have to do a little bit of the gluing to get them together. And also, it's a lot of magnets in them. I'll include the magnets in the kit as well. And I have put them together before and got the magnets wrong. And once they're glued in there, you can't really get them out. And I trust you more to put your magnets on right than I trust me to put your magnets on. But the parts that are going to be assembled for you is pretty much anything that you need a specialty tool for. So although copper offsets are going to be put in there, and the hips and thighs are going to be molded together for you. But if you're printing your own, you're obviously going to have to do all of it yourself because you're doing it on your own. He scales up pretty nicely too. As a little bit of a joke, I upscaled some of the parts and he looks really fun upscaled. So I might, I don't know, see how big you can print him. I have him printed on this size for a very specific purpose for later on for a future project. I'll give you a hint. There's a reason he's named Dirge and not Starscream. But as far as sizes go, he's a little bit halfway between a weapon master and your standard core class. Almost exactly halfway between these two. He's that tall next to the Cybertron Bumblebee. Not really sure what size class he falls into. And then next to the only Starscream I have, he's about that tall. So just to give you an idea. Of how tall he is next to Starscream. He's about that tall. So there we are for scale. He doesn't transform, obviously, because Pretender Shell Starscream doesn't transform. But yeah, this is Dirge. Not Starscream. This is Dirge. We'll get more into that in the vlog portion. Here's this nice little butt crease. Little butt cheeks. You got some cake back there. Big biceps. Nice pecs, nice abs you could eat cake off. Yeah, big buff boy, little buff boy. Look how small he is, little buff boy. There we go. There's the Dirge articulation demo. He is not Starscream. He's Dirge. His name's Dirge. I changed his name because I never thought Pretender Shell Starscream looked anything like Starscream, so I changed his name to Dirge. Because a lot of the Pretender Shells and their inner bots are so different and they're a disconnect, I really think it would have been a better idea for Hasbro and Takara just to make them different characters that go together. And so in my head, the shell's name is Dirge and the inner robot is Starscream. It's a franchise with combining robots. They're just weird combiners. They're weird toys, so they're weird combiners. Why Pretender Shells? My laundry's done.
I'm saying again, why Pretender Shells?
Why Pretender Shells? Because my laundry's done. Why Pretender Shells? If you're new to the fandom or you're old to the fandom, go watch Chris McFeely's videos on the basics or the Triple Takeover podcast. I'm sure they've had an episode where they talk about the Pretender Shells. If you want more detailed information on what they are. But the long and short of it is you had a little tiny inner robot that transformed into a nothing alt mode. Honestly, they didn't look too good. Starscream was actually good. He was just a tiny version of the G1 toy, which I think is kind of cool. But then these two plastic shells went over robot mode. And they kind of hid inside of these more organic shapes and more organic shells. Starscream's was just a big buff guy in like a spiky Mad Max astronaut road warrior space marine thing. It's really weird. And I think the Pretender Shells are notorious for being bad toys, but ask anyone that collects them, they are rather fun. I just think people talk a lot about there's the running joke in Transformers is oh, this killed the brand. At first it was Action Masters, then it was Pretender Shells, then it was Beast Wars, and then it's the robots are gay now, and non-binary robots killed it, even though that's the coolest thing to happen to Transformers since Optimus Prime died the first time. I mean that literally. More non-binary Transformers, please.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow
pronouns
up, no
are
I don't
they?
take shit. He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
But the Pretender Shell toy gimmick has been kind of explained in the lore before, and it's like either they're transforming into humans or they're monsters transforming into robots, and it's just like you pick up the toys, you're like, that's not what happened. They're two different things, and you smash them together. It's like it's a huge disconnect for me. Like that's not what those toys are. It's clearly two things becoming one thing. And so I got really stuck on that idea, like how do you make that gimmick better? And my idea was to make them two different characters. You got Dirge and you got Starscream. You put Starscream inside Dirge, not in the fanfiction-y way.
You know what? No. Well,
You had Starscream inside Dirge, and now they're stronger because anime. And then, so that was my core idea. And then I kind of wanted this to be if what I just said, if that was the original lore for Pretender Shell, what if they rebooted that in 2023, whatever year it is? And I landed on this. A tiny Dirge that will eventually go into a big Starscream car. So now Dirge is the little guy that goes inside Starscream. Dirge is the little guy that goes inside Starscream. Willis for president, 2024. Yeah, I think the next part of the project is to make the what I've been calling car scream for Dirge to pilot. So I made Dirge tiny, and I'm gonna make a bigger car scream, a Starscream that's a car scream. I wanted to kind of do a thing of like, if I were to make a Transformers TV show with its own toy line, what would I want it to be? I'm a Unicron trilogy kid. I really liked Cybertron, where you got to see all these different colony planets. So I kind of took the core idea of Cybertron and thought, like, what if it was all about racing? You saw all the different Transformers planets, but they all had their own unique tracks. And everyone was a race car, and kind of inspired by Pacific Rim. The whole stupid thing about two brains piloting a big robot. What if these robot races were so fast and so dangerous you needed two brains to pilot it? And I just galaxy brained on, well, Dirge will be the pilot and Starscream will be the car. And so I'm going to make a car scream Transformer that's kind of based off the Alternity figures, but with some extra stuff thrown in there. I got Alternity Thundercracker and like immediately fell in love with it. Everyone said it was a bad toy. He pops some ball joints, but I think it's honestly really fun. And so taking that concept, but having Dirge be Starscream's race partner and having him physically pilot or help pilot the car scream car. But to do that, I needed to know how tiny I could make a pilot figure, because I can't really go down to Weapon Master size or Headmaster size, because with 3D printing, I could have had maybe a resin printer, but that brings up different issues. The 3D printed plastic, especially PLA, just isn't that strong at that scale. So I needed to figure out how tiny I could make an articulated figure. Now, Dirge is somewhere between a Weapon Master and a Core class figure, so he's kind of big to have a whole car built around, so I don't know how big Starscream's going to be. I think that's kind of the fun of it, to see how big at this scale a Transformer that can fit a guy inside of him is. That's also why he has magnets in his feet. Kind of a reference to the G1, pre-Transformers, a Diaclone, the Dionauts, I think they're called. They have little magnets on them that stuck to the diecast. And so on the Starscream will have little magnets scattered around them so Dirge can surf on a car or something like that. Something fun. Yeah. And I really wanted to bring some of that in because Transformers needs more little dudes with magnets in it. Little dudes with magnets are fun. So Dirge will be able to surf on top of Starscream's car. So I think the last thing to talk about is, the penultimate thing to talk about. I have one more secret thing to talk about. The penultimate thing to talk about is why he is the way he is. Michael Scott. Why I made some engineering choices on him, none of which involve this cat hair. When you put the hips together, if you buy one of the pre-built kits, you'll see that there's a little brass nut inside it. It's not a brass nut. It's a motherboard offset, stand offset. I'll put the link. The words will appear in front of me when I'm editing because I can't Google things while I'm filming. But a little computer board offset holds the screws so it's not the plastic doing the work. And the reason I'm doing that instead of not like a nut is because those offsets are smaller than a nut would be, which goes into, again, I wanted to see how small I can make a figure. And there are heat set inserts, but again, they're slightly bigger, and these laptop offsets were the smallest thing I could find to be used as a nut in the figure. So these little button screws screw into the nut, they go through the hip, and they go into the laptop offset to make his hips. And then for all his joints are magnets because they're about 5mm posts, I think, probably like 8mm posts for the legs, because the magnets are 5mm. They are that size because to get them printed nicely and looking good, I had to print them vertically, which means these posts would be really weak in that way. Just printed in the orientation, they just be really weak and not very strong. But so if you drop it, you're probably gonna break it. And I just dropped it off camera like 6 seconds ago before we started filming, and his limbs explode off, but nothing breaks because the weakest connection isn't the plastic, it's the magnets. So it adds a little bit of strength to it that way, in a clever way, I would think. And then the arms, I have the opposite problem where I don't know how to get mass-produced tiny ball joints that are strong. And to print a ball joint, the best way to get the detail is you print it vertically, but that makes it weak. So I used the other kind of laptop offset that has a tiny 2.5mm screw coming off of it, and the ball joints screw onto that. So the ball is plastic, the post is hollow, but it has a metal screw running through it, kind of like the rebar in concrete. So the posts are a lot stronger than they would be if they were just 3D printed, which lets me get the smallest possible articulated figure. The smallest possible articulated figure I could do, and I could have repeatable. There are people that have done 3D printed, like headmasters that have elbows and stuff. But yeah, so those are some of the engineering decisions I made. That's why a lot of his connections are magnets. That's why there's these weird inserts. That's why you screw on the ball joints. Yeah, and then besides that, There's a crease in his helmet so the helmet can flex and get out of the way. And the shoulders use TPU because I wanted the shoulder pads on there. I didn't want the shoulder pads to be a part of the arm. And I wanted them to move like armor. And the only two options for that were some sort of hinge, which at this scale would be pretty large and intrusive on the figure, or for it to be flexible. And I think that gives it a more natural look, especially when you put it on him. They kind of curve upwards like a football player wearing football pads. And I like it. The only con is you have to print that part in TPU. I know there are flexible resins, but if you only have a resin printer, tell me how that goes. I don't know. I don't have a resin printer. But the shoulder pads and the TPU are technically optional. The armor fits on just fine without the shoulder pads. Just to complete the look, you need that TPU. But if you're printing it by yourself and all you have is a resin, feel free to boot up your 3D printer and print an alternative something, a little DIY thing to make those shoulder pads fit on there. Because I don't have a resin printer, so I can't really troubleshoot a problem that I can't troubleshoot. Yeah. So, a few more things before we go. If you think this super cool shirt is super cool like I do, get it. It's like Wendy's, but it's RC. You can get it on Switchcraft. It'll come up on Instagram. His store link's in there. And it's all over here. Pictures of all his cool shirts. He made this, and I just thought it was too awesome not to get. I think it's hilarious. He has a whole bunch of different ones. He has Starbucks. He has a Windblade one. Wendy's spelled with an I instead of an E. My cat's rubbing her face on the tripod. It's shaking the camera. All sorts of animal interruptions. Oh, she found an ant. Get it. Switchcraft on Instagram. His store link's on there. He has a whole bunch of cool ones. He has a Windblade one. He has a Starscream one. No, he has a Starbucks one. Probably Starscream. A whole bunch of cool fast food puns on Transformers. I saw it and I immediately had to get one. I got it in yellow, so I look like an employee of RC's. The real secret last thing is a teaser for one of my next projects. It's a big dinosaur. It's going to be a Digimon the Movie accurate Greymon. The smallest figure I've ever made, next to the largest figure I've ever made. I've shown them off a lot on the YouTube shorts, but this thing is massive. Maybe a vlog video about it coming soon. I'll have to see what I feel about it. There's a lot going on in it. I'll have to write down my thoughts to get what I want. Clearly, it's only half a dinosaur right now. My brain's just tired on this project, and I'm going to go work on other things. But he, at the moment, stands up, but it's only his butt. But his tail moves, his legs move. There's cool gear stuff going on in there to keep tolerance. Really fun. There's even little Digimon Easter eggs going on. So I'm doing not just Transformers, I'm doing all sorts of cool toys. This is a big boy. I'm going to try to sell some Dirges physically. Some of this guy's parts take 24 hours to print. I'm probably not going to sell a physical one. I might, if you ask real nicely, I'll maybe do one, but it's going to be so big. But you'll be able to buy the files, but I could not show it off in a video. So Greymon's coming. And this isn't a Digimon. It's a Mechanicamon, because I don't want to get sued. It's a mechanical monster, not a digital monster. Super excited for this one. So big. Okay, here we are at the end of the video. like, subscribe, comment if you want 3D files, if you want only 5 of these guys exist, if you want a physical copy right here, and then Crafts merch store here. There's an extra space somewhere. Tell me what you think of little Dirge. Tell me what you think I should make next. Show me if you 3D print them, if whatever colors you decide on. If you want to rename them to something else, if you want to call them Starscream, let me know. Yeah, down in the comments. I really want to see if anyone prints them. If you have a 3D printer, try to upscale them. See how you can do that. You'll have to do something a little creative with the shoulders and the hips, but you have the files. Feel free to upscale them and see how you want to make them. If someone has the original Pretender Shell, I would love to see him next to that. That'd be really cool. But that's it for now. Thank you. Goodbye.